I'd probably beat you.
I'm not
No,
willing
I'll
to take
tell you-
that risk.
I'll tell you why I'm
I'm
asking
unwilling
that.
to take that
A
risk.
long time ago, I worked really hard for Dick Gephardt.
Yeah.
And he was too nice.
Yeah.
My own son-in-law said, he can't make it, Deb, he's just too nice.
Right.
And you seem too nice. How tough can you be?
So, first of all, I'm the parent or the father of 3 daughters, so that makes a person tough. I have been a school superintendent, which really makes a person
I'm
tough.
a school board,
Well,
so I
so
honor
you
you
know,
for that.
and
yeah.
congratulations, I'm sure the pay is really good.
I can buy lunch once.
Right, and thank you for doing that, by the way, because I know how tough it is. But it is hard, you know, when you're changing the way school has operated for generations and engaging the community on that. It was a daily battle. It always felt worth doing, and I don't think anybody in that context ever thought I wasn't tough enough or didn't have the courage of my conviction, and also wasn't open-minded and wasn't listening for new information to be able to make better decisions or change my mind. And sometimes that's, in my mind, a sign of toughness, is your willingness to learn a new fact and have that adjust the way you approach life. That's out of vogue in our politics. Nobody does that anymore. But the older I get, the less certain I am of what I think on every single issue. The more interested I am in hearing from other people. I had an occasion a while ago to have a conversation with Ted Cruz on the floor of the Senate when the Trump had shut the government down, and Cruz was out there talking about how unfortunate it was that our Coast Guard wasn't getting paid, which I believed also was unfortunate. The only thing is, I knew that Ted Cruz had shut the government down when Colorado had been flooded in 2011. And so, if you have the opportunity to watch that on YouTube, it's a speech that's been watched more than any other speech in the history of the Senate. And I think you'll see an answer to your question. So, I'm not, you know, as I said earlier, I consider myself to be the opposite of Donald Trump. But I am not worried about whether I can go up against him. I'm not worried about whether I'm tough enough to deal with him. I think he's a bully, you know, and as somebody who was a school superintendent, I know what you do with the bully on a schoolyard. And one thing you don't do is play into their hands. And one thing you do is isolate them for what they're doing. I mean, think about this. Here's a guy, and again, as I said earlier, my state is a third. And here's a guy who got elected, among other things, attacking John McCain's patriotism. Guy who was in the Hanoi Hilton for 5 years, in solitary confinement, was given the opportunity to leave and wouldn't leave because they said, we know you're an admiral's son and you can get out. And McCain said, that's not the way this works. It's when you get there, and the earlier you get there, the earlier you get to leave. And he stayed for 5 years. This guy with his bone spurs, who didn't even go to Vietnam, you know, tried to make John McCain into a laughingstock. And it was repeated over and over again on Fox News, and repeated over and over again all over this country. When, if a kid in my household did that to John McCain, you know, whatever you do in the 21st century, wash their mouth out with soap. Or if your parent or your grandparents said that about, you know, John McCain, you'd say, we apologize. That's not going to happen again at our dinner table. And we lost something of ourselves in the last election. That basic decency that we come to expect from each other. And to have somebody in the White House who can't model the most basic behavior of politeness and civility, who's turning our border into a symbol of nativist hostility, who believes that our differences are weaknesses and not strengths, somebody who doesn't believe in the separation of powers or the independence of the judiciary or the freedom of the press, all the things that New Hampshire has fought for over the years, who doesn't, I don't think, even believes in our democracy, who believes I alone can fix it, which is what he said when he ran. That's the opposite of how this is supposed to work. And I think we need somebody who's tough enough to engage the American people again in this democratic project, because it belongs to us. There's no one else to ride to the rescue. Jefferson said that only citizens can answer the alarm bells at night. That's true. And the other point that you were making earlier, Lincoln said, we must never be enemies, we must be friends. This is talking during the Civil War, beginning, middle, and end. And if he could feel that way during the Civil War, we should be able to feel that way now. You know, and I'll get out of here because I know you got a place to go, but let me just say, this country was not founded on the idea that we would agree with each other. That wasn't the point. The point was the opposite of that. It was founded on the idea that we would disagree with each other. And because they had disagreements, and they knew we would have disagreements. That was the point of living in what they call the republic, what we call a democracy. You have your point of view, and I have my point of view. The idea was, out of those disagreements, you know, we would forge not some lazy consensus or some weak compromise, but we would actually forge a more imaginative and durable solution than any king or tyrant could come up with on their own. That's the whole point of it. And that's what we've lost in our national politics. And I think we need a president who's tough enough to understand that we live in a country with a huge number of diverse points of view, but we have an obligation together to drive the country forward, to preserve the democracy and to preserve America's place in the world, and some choices are better than other choices. And I believe that's what we need out of the next president, and that's why I decided to run. So I hope being nice is not a disqualifying thing for being president. I'll tell you this, after the Cruz speech on the floor, my daughter Caroline was watching it in her room in college with her roommates, and it came on, and she heard me, and she said, "Uh-oh, I've heard that voice before." and every time there was a newspaper article that came out after that and said, "Mild-mannered Michael Bennet, blah, 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 blah," they would like circle the mild-mannered, roll their eyes, and send it. So I'm tough enough.
Good, because that's how people react to me, too.
Good. Well, that's good. So next time we'll arm wrestle. Thank you all for being here. So many of you were kind enough to sort of observe earlier. I'm not exactly polling at the very top of this field right now, but I believe we can make progress, and I hope if you were interested in what you heard, that you'll go to michaelbennet.com and sign up. We'd love to have your help. We'd love to have you join together with the people that are already working in New Hampshire on this campaign and surprise some people. I think that's what we need to do to win the election. So
I think you could win.
I appreciate
There
that. Don't tweet anything that HR is going to come after you on. You got better things to do with your time. Thank you for your comments. I really appreciate it. So long, everybody.